You're listening to the Nordstroms Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstroms Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans. Today, without Shannon, without Chris, but we have a couple guests in the studio today. You're not going to believe this, folks, but we have Art Nordstrom and Marie Nordstrom in the studio, founders of Under the Hood and Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
This is great. Well, thank you for coming. We have not done this ever before, and we thought we're gonna do this because if it were not for the two of you, we would not be here at all today. Who knows where I'd be? Who knows where everybody else would be? It's really an honor to have you both here. It's been a long time. If we went back, so we're not going to take any calls right away. We're just going to talk and have fun. I've had people ask us many times, can you talk more about yourselves and what you do? And we said, well, we do that on the YouTube after show, but this is going to be a little different. This is fun. I was thinking today, and I've thought this a lot, and Shannon and I have talked, and Chris, but I gotta go back all the way back to the 60s.
Oh, you're going back a ways.
Yeah, I was barely born. I was at the end. So the two of you, let's say when you were living here, and this was a farm, 1966?
65.
Let's say 65?
65.
This did not exist.
This did not exist. It was a dairy farm.
Did it exist in your head? What were your thoughts for the future?
At that time, it wasn't even on the radar. Not at all.
So when did it, and I haven't heard this just came into my head. When did you first think I should maybe farming, do I want to farm the rest of my life? I mean, were you thinking of a job? Were you thinking like, am I going to work on cars? Am I going to milk cows my life? Am I going to plant corn? What am I going to do? Did any of this ever come into your mind that you might do something with cars?
Nope, not a bit. I like cars. My first car was a 51 Nash Rambler station wagon.
Oh, I remember that.
Yep. And I was 14 years old when my mother bought that for me. I don't know if my dad was on board or not, but
Leona?
Yep. But I developed a reputation with that car, and it's stuck. And the only way I outlived it is all the people that know about it have died.
That's one way to do it. You outlive them.
Yep.
Oh.
It was just a mode of transportation, a mode of excitement, because back then, I was born in 43 and moved here when I was 3 years old. And as I grew up, you had to find your own excitement. There wasn't such a thing as a town to go to.
Were you here on this farm
Yes.
when you were 3?
I was 3 years old, and I
no
just
idea.
lived up the road a mile, was where I was born.
Oh, wow.
And it was just when you got to go to town, it was a Saturday night thing, and you go with your folks and popcorn machine on the corner, and, way back then.
Sure.
So it's, like I said, you generated your own excitement.
When did it turn into, so you were here, and you fast forward to the 60s, which is a ways ago, but
Well, I graduated in 61, don't forget.
when did you looked at the place and said, I'm milking cows this morning? When was the moment where, let's say it all started, where whatever you did started you on the progression to coming to where you are today?
Well, I think a real quick start of it is that I love to hunt a lot. My dad bought me a .22 rifle, I think, when I was about 10 or something like that, and I still have that gun today. And just farming wasn't on the radar. You just assumed that maybe you would. Well, my dad was milking cows at that time, and it was the first electricity that came to the farm, where they had milking machines. And
you were here before electricity.
well, when it came to the farm, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
It's hard to imagine this facility now going back that far with nothing.
Yeah, and the outhouse out behind the house,
Oh, boy.
and had the great big spiders on it, which I'm still scared of spiders today.
They're still hanging around. I've seen a few of those big garden things.
They ended up with getting hit by a bat or else something. I don't like them yet today. But I was gonna say that then the country school was only a mile away, and the old story. We walked to school or we rode our bikes, and then later on it became we got it when I was in 8th grade, graduated, went to Garrettson to the high school, and that was a whole new world.
I bet.
And I think that's where Marie comes into play. I'm going to go back, and you said if I was going to be farming.
Yeah.
My dad was 53 when he passed away, and he had a grade A dairy farm, which was pretty well known in the area. And we did not have intentions of milking cows, maybe farming, but not milking cows. And went down with my mother and settled up the note that she had with Production Credit Association, and came out, we were milking cows. She can go from there.
So you were doing that, Marie. What? How did it transition to cars? What was the first thought of maybe we'll make some money with some cars? Just a
Well,
little
he
bit.
was mechanical, so he could do that. I had no idea about that stuff, but he kept having a dream. You'll have to tell him about your dream.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, yeah, but that was after we were married and we were trying to make things going.
Sure.
When we first got married and came out here after my dad had died, we were getting paid $32 a week. That's what we lived on.
Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy is right. Right now, I can't even go to Burger King for $32 for both of them. But back to the north side of the yard here, I had a vision of there was a curvy road and there was a big grove of trees around here. And on that curvy road, I thought someday I'll have some cars out there. Well, the road's still there, but look what happened since then.
Wow. Yeah. There is quite a collection. But so when did the time come about where you milk cows? You were milking cows when I got here 30 years ago. But when did you finally decide? Okay, this is going to be our living. We're going to move forward with this, and we're going to try to make a living with cars.
I think that when you're farming and you want to have stuff, and the neighbors always had the best of this and the best of that.
Yeah.
And, we had nothing, so you try and upgrade. Well, any farm, you have to have a pickup. And I wanted a pickup. So I went down to the bank and I wanted to get money for a pickup. And they said, no, you don't have any equity. You don't have any collateral. I think what he was saying is you're just you aren't going to get one.
Okay.
They
And,
would allow us. They would borrow money for a manure spreader.
yeah, but they wouldn't give us money for a pickup. And we had chickens. We had hogs. Marie can tell you a little bit about that.
No, we raised chickens at the top of a building. It was we would go up there and pick the eggs and sell them. And when they came and picked them up, they gave us cash. So we have a story where we were gonna save this cash, and then we'd be able to pay for the chickens, pay the payment. Here we found out it wasn't till the next month, and it was like $35. We just threw it all over the kitchen.
We had money flying through the air and on the floor, and it was the
Oh,
greatest
boy.
thing we ever had.
We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about this truck that moved you into the automotive world.
Okay.
We'll be right back on Under the Hood. Check us out on our YouTube channel, Under the Hood Show.
Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstroms Motor Medics.
Welcome back to Under the Hood. I'm Russ Evans, along with Art and Marie Nordstrom in studio today. We're sitting down and having a conversation with them. Shannon and Chris are out of town. They will be back again next week. So we're getting back into it here. We were talking about a truck. That's kind of how you got into the automotive. What was up with this truck you
Well, I think it isn't a
wanted
truck.
to get?
It was a pickup. Every farmer had to have a pickup.
Yeah, a pickup truck, not like
Yeah.
a grain truck.
Right.
Everybody has a grain truck.
And I wanted a pickup. And like Marie said, we saved the egg money and any other money we could get that we could. And we finally had enough, and I went to Arndt's Wrecking, which was the largest recycling yard in South Dakota. And Marv Underberg was a very good friend of mine at that time.
Yeah, he worked for us for a number of years.
Yep, before he passed away. And they had a 68 Ford pickup down there that was wrecked, hitting the right front on the cowl area. Probably people wouldn't even fix right now. But
What color was it?
green.
Green. If I had the Berkeley One Classics guess the color, I would not have guessed green. I would have thought maroon. Green.
No, it was a green. And anyway, I bought it. And Dick Austin, a friend of mine, had a body shop, and he was a year older than me in high school. And I took it up to him, and he fixed it. So I got myself a pickup. And I drove it for probably about a year and used it for our stuff. And I thought, you know what? I had a neighbor who wanted to buy it. I said, okay, I'm going to sell it to you. So I sold it to him. And I thought I made a lot of money, but I kept a book of everything I did from that point on. What was it, Marie? $15?
I'm not sure. It was very little.
It was very little. I thought it was a couple hundred or whatever it was, but it was very little. But I took a pickup in trade from him, and I sold that pickup. And all of a sudden, I realized that there might be something here to do. So I went out, and I bought another pickup, fixed it up, sold it. And I didn't do any paint work. I didn't do any frame work. I took it to the Brandon Body Shop, was good friends of ours, and they did all the paint work on it. And there was a frame shop in Sioux Falls, Dakota Alignment or Sioux Alignment, and I would have them do the framework, then I'd bring it back and put it all together. So I had a warranty then on all the parts, everything that was done except for what I would do. Sold it, just kept going and kept going and kept going. And pretty soon I had a chance to buy a wrecked stock truck. And I bought that, I fixed it up, sold it. Then I bought another one, sold it. And of course, at the same time, we've got livestock, we've got farming, and that's where Marie came into it. She kind of got stuck with all of the plowing, the disking, taking care of the calves and everything. But it was a joint effort. You know, we've been married 61 years, and we've lived together for every day of that 61 years, and work together, sleep together, talk together, argue, whatever it happened to be. But I think it's kind of an unusual story that people stick together that long now with all of the people that go to town, and the wife works someplace and the guy's got another job. Oh, it was stick-to-itiveness, and we did it alike. And Marie can tell you a little bit on her upbringing, how we got there. She crashed into me, by the way.
Is that how you met?
Yep. Well, I didn't like him. He was a brat.
Well, I haven't heard this one. I don't think anybody else has either.
He was a brat, and
Spoiled brat.
I knew him from 4-H, and I just thought he was a brat. I came from a family of 8 kids. We didn't have anything, and we were in 4-H, and he was in 4-H, and they had a little race, and it was with little kind of like golf cart cars, and you had to do different activities. Then you'd get in and go around the circle again. And when
up to Garrettson at the ball diamond.
Yep.
Up there. Yep.
And he and I were racing. I didn't even know he was racing. His pit man was his cousin Chuck Kozan. My pit man was a gal that lives at Valley Springs, my cousin. And anyway, we came around and they ran right into us.
No, you ran into us.
Yeah. Well, that's the story.
we were in the front, and
okay.
They slammed into the side of us and pushed us into the tires, and all they did was sat there and giggled.
Anyway, I didn't like him anymore.
Well, you didn't know you didn't like me anymore at that time. So.
But that's really where we really met, I guess. And then when we got into high school, I didn't date a lot. I didn't have anybody. I don't know about him, but I guess if we just go right to the point, his little brother was killed in a farming accident when he was a senior and I was a junior. And I just felt sorry for him. I just thought, here's this dork that I don't like, but I just felt sorry for him. And I asked him to back then what was called a Sadie Hawkins dance, where the girl would ask the boy, and that's how it got going.
You know, and kind of at that point when she asked me, it wasn't really a big deal because I didn't have girls so much on my mind. Because when I started,
just cars,
kind of like that, and going fast. I love to drive fast.
Well, the first time he took me home, my dad had told me to find somebody to bring me home because he wouldn't be able to get up and come and get him. So he just kept showing his tricks in his little car, and I thought I was never going to get home. And it was 3:00 before I got home. My dad gave me heck, and he said, "Who brought you home?" And I said, "That darn little Artie Nordstrom, and I'll never ride with him again."
And and I guess back then I didn't have responsibility of knowing, but I never ever wrecked a car, so I must have been a pretty good driver.
Yeah, that's what I always tell my wife.
But the thing was that the car I took her home in, and at that time was a '54 Plymouth, and it was a fun car. It was a 3-speed on the column, and of course when you shift,
Three
you
on the tree.
you slam it. Well, I did it so much that the shifter would go to the other side of the steering column.
Oh, sure.
So I had to bring it all the way back in order to shift it into gear. And it was just those kind of things, and to show off. Probably more when I look back at it was for attention. That I developed a reputation instead of attention. I got attention, all right.
So out here at the Nordstroms Auto Recycling, when did the sign first go up and you decided I'm going to start selling some parts after you collected enough vehicles and things started to happen?
Well, go ahead.
Well, we were very cautious
Yeah.
because we were zoned agricultural
Sure.
because of the dairy farm. And so we were very cautious when we did those things. I don't know the year when we first put up a sign. I really don't. Do you
No,
remember what it was?
No, not for sure, but I know that when I was doing the trucks and everything and I was selling them, pretty soon I had people asking me, for a truck, and I would probably have a wrecked one there, but I had accumulated enough parts laying around to fix the Chevy trucks. That's what I mainly worked with. And so I tell you what, I'll sell you the truck and the parts. And that's how it really kind of got going. And we called ourselves Nordstrom Used and Rebuilt Trucks.
Okay.
And I think Marie had a hand in changing that.
I thought I saw a sign around here somewhere laying around. Is there a sign still?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Think I've seen that.
Well, I'm a hoarder.
Wow. So then
Well-
it just kind of progressed from there. And then not too long after I started, but it was back in 03, so it's a while after I started, but there was an auction for your birthday, 60th birthday.
Yep.
And we sold something like 57 Chevys. You must have started collecting 57 Chevys at some point and said, well, just give me that and I'll sell you some parts or
Well,
something.
back then you could buy them real cheap because they were all over the place, and it
Oh,
was
yeah.
no intentions of hoarding a collection or anything off of them. But I'd buy a couple, park them, sell a few parts off them and everything, and I got them with wrecked. I got them with no motors in them, some 4-doors with motors, and just no intentions of doing that. And pretty soon I had quite a collection out back, and I had them parked side by side. And then I had a guy by the name of Paul Stenslin had wrecked his car, or had gotten hit, I should say, and needed a quarter panel. And I had just bought from Egan, South Dakota, a 57 Tudor hardtop olive green, like army green.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut it in half, got him the quarter panel, and I thought, what the heck did I do that for? Because then I was starting to sense a little more in value. And at that point on, I wouldn't even sell you a bolt.
I had heard that you wouldn't. Art's that guy, that old crotchety guy, won't sell any parts from his cars.
That's right. And, no intentions of ever having an auction, but I just said, why am I doing that? So I just wouldn't sell anything off of them. Kind of a stick it in your ear thing.
Well, and I can see how that goes because I've had emotional attachments to things, and the longer you have it, the worse it gets.
But
you
I
just
think
don't
that
want to sell it.
the fascination with the 57 Chevy, Marie, you can fill in on that a little bit.
We went together. You had a 57 Chevy. I outran a cop one night.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, we never
She was having fun.
we never knew what we were going to do with those 57s, but we knew we couldn't keep them in the trees as our business grew. And so it came to a point where we needed a warehouse. And that's what happened. We needed a warehouse. And so we decided if we sold those 57 Chevys, we could build our warehouse.
And when we got a hold of our oldest daughter, which is Yvette Vanderbrink Auctions, does auctions all across the United States. And so that was really her start. We had 219 cars altogether that we sold.
Yeah.
Chevelles, Mustangs, cars that if I flipped that auction around, they'd have brought more by doing those than the 57 Chevys. But it gave us another start. We didn't know it, but the Lord had his hand in our work so much. And when you get older, when you look back, you can see how it happened.
You can see it unfold when you go back and
That's right.
you reverse engineer it. That's for sure.
You got that right.
Yeah, that auction was quite the thing. I remember all the cars that went through there, Corvairs and 57s, and old Chevys. There were just so many things that went through there.
Pickups and Chryslers and Mustangs and Chevelles.
And I remember you had to move them from here at the
Yep.
auto recycling facility where the studio is up to our shop in Garrettson. And when you moved them there, the Marv Hall that was hauling those, he put like up more than 1,000 miles on that tow truck going back and
We're
forth.
6 miles from Garrettson
Yeah.
from right here. And Marv Hall, he was keeping track of mileage, and I didn't know it, but we had all the cars, every car, down to my house. Our house. I better say it's
Yeah.
our house. And we used 30,000 gallons of water, and I think we used 3 cases
Cleaning them up.
of McGuire's. We cleaned them
And
up.
you put tires on all of them.
We put tires and wheels. My son-in-law,
That really made a difference.
my son-in-law Steve Vanderbeek made sure that they rolled. We took the brake shoes out of the ones that were stuck, and we never put any new ones back in.
I pushed a lot of them.
Yeah. And Marv Hall said that he drove 900 miles,
900.
taking cars up to Garrettson 2
That's
at
a
a time
lot.
or 1 at a time.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the show a little bit. And then we welcome people to call in after that if you have questions for Art and Marie. So we'll give it about another 10 minutes of the show, and then we're going to open up the phone lines for that. We'll be right back in just a second. 866-594-4150.
Find us on radio, YouTube, Facebook, and podcast by searching Under the Hood Show. Just like Chicken Man, we're everywhere.
Thanks for joining us Under the Hood. I'm Russ Evans along with Art Nordstrom. I was going to say Shannon Nordstrom.
You could say the same.
And Marie Nordstrom.
Hey,
All
I
right.
want to kind of an important part of the story when you're talking about how we got started on
Yeah.
the pickups and the trucks and everything. Everything I was doing at that time, we never had a dealer's license or anything. So,
Sure.
So jumping titles and all that way back then, which I didn't think was quite so bad, I had a way of figuring it all out.
Yeah.
And I think that Marie can tell you a little bit how we got into the dealer's license part.
We were told we couldn't have
Selling
it.
cars.
Yep.
Yeah, we were told we couldn't have a dealer's license in the country. And I knew that wasn't true, but I didn't know how to solve it. But one day I just called out to Pierre, out to our state capitol, and just asked somebody. And they were so helpful. They told me what I could do and how I could get it. We were able to get a dealer's license.
So
And then you were,
That was another step in our business, which she took the initiative to do. I was, like I say, farming, milking, just going after these cars and anything I could hear. But
they're
she
always
was-
behind us doing the work.
She was doing it. And what was it, Marie? The guy said when he came out, it was Jim
And-
Merrill at that
Yeah,
time.
the inspector, he just said, "How did you guys do all this without me knowing this?"
Well, there's good and bad to that, but at least you got everything together, and then it was Nordstrom's auto recycling
No,
from then on.
Nordstrom's used and rebuilt
Rebuilt trucks. So,
Right,
so you
rebuilt
could
trucks.
sell vehicles, you could buy them, you could trade them, just like a car lot could at
Yep.
the time, and then moving forward into parts after
Well,
that.
we got into selling the trucks and pickups. That was the main thing. And then all of a sudden cars kind of came into it. But the best story we've got when we had a dealer's license and we were able to get, put a white plate in somebody's
Yeah.
car. The first car that we sold was to a guy we were trying to help out. And I forgot his name right now.
Ray Bradford.
Ray Bradford, and he's from down south. And he stopped up on the North Cliff and filled up the car with gas and skipped, and he took off. So they called the cops, and the cops were chasing him, and he went through the fence going onto the interstate to be 229 right
Sure.
now, and the car caught fire. And
Oh,
so-
boy.
Yeah, and so the patrol and all that had the cars surrounded, they had guns drawn on him. And the front page of the Argus Leader, here's a picture of the car that I sold him with our dealer number, 619.
That's one way to get some advertising.
Well, a lot of those things, it did give us advertising. I'm by heart a little bit of a carny because of Fred Buckmiller at the racetrack. He
Yeah,
was
you were a racetrack guy forever. You were at Houston Speedway.
39 years.
I was going to ask you about that's one of the things I had on my mind. So I had a gentleman come into my shop. His name, everybody called him Red, and I
Yep.
worked on his car all the time. And he told me after 15 years, he's been gone, dead 15 years now or so, maybe 20, but he told me hey, I used to work for old Art out there. I'm like, what'd you do? He goes, I used to cut the grass out there, cut the hay. I said, oh, that's interesting. He said, yeah. And then he pointed over. He says, I used to cut it on that tractor right there. And I said, that tractor right there
Yep.
with the race engine in it. He says, yep.
That's the one.
He says, well, it wasn't always a race tractor. And he was kind of a dry humor
Yep.
kind of guy. Oh, that was funny. But so you tell us what you did with the it's sitting in our lobby down there right now.
Well, I don't know. I had heard down in Nebraska there was a guy that had a Ford tractor with a V8 engine in it. And I was with Jerry Ross and Lyle Nelson, and they had the race car down at the racetrack.
Engine builders are around here.
Engine builders, and Jerry Ross was a race car driver, one of the better ones that were around here at that time. I'm going to say better, the best that was around here at that time. And I thought, God dang, why couldn't I do that? And so I took the tractor and pulled the old four-cylinder out of it, and I had a 58 Mercury Marauder with a 383 motor in it, which was basically the Etzel engine.
Yeah.
Weighed about 1,000 pounds, I think. And I got it all set in there, and the pilot shaft is as big as a 2-ton truck on those Fords. You wouldn't think you'd need one that big, but there was no way of centering it. So I had to jack it, move it, center it, and we cut a car bell housing off, and then welded it to the tractor bell housing, and I couldn't weld very good.
Well, and it was cast. That was a lot.
Cast.
That was a lot of work back then.
Yep. And Leonard Carlson he had a welding shop down in Corson, and he welded it up for me after I had it tacked, and it's got perfect balance and everything in it. And that was the beginning of it. And my brother Greg, he had it down to the school in Brandon, and he did some extra little things to it, and we had it so we could drive it with a 64 Chevy seat sitting on it. And it was funny we didn't get killed. And it would go pretty fast, and then I heard that you could put an overdrive in them, a Sherman overdrive out of the Ford Ferguson. So I got a hold of one of those, put that in there, and now we have a tractor that go from 0 to 100 in a little over a block, but you can't hold it there. It only weighs 3,100 pounds.
That tractor
changed motors too, by the way.
That tractor is nuts. And I got the thing running when you were inducted into the Huset's Hall of Fame, and you didn't think it was going to run again.
No.
And we got it going. And then I drove it a little bit, and I had heard all these stories all these years. Art says, now you can't drive. You drive that thing, and you got to respect it because it will kill you faster. It doesn't care. It wants to go faster, and it will kill you. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I took off on our gravel we had at our shop in the back, and I said, I wonder how fast this thing really will accelerate. So I floored it in the back there, and it took off. And I said, all right, I got about 50 feet left, but I'd driven about 100 feet. And I said, I got 50 feet, so I'm going to start stopping now. Well, I started stopping, and I went 100 feet before I stopped.
Yeah, the tread grip on the ground was only about 4 inches because of those lug tires. It takes you just as long to stop as it does to go.
So he tells me this after I tell him, it seems like it's hard to stop. He goes, oh, yeah, it takes just as long to stop as start. And then he tells me the story about when he was up, I think, for show and tell or something at the school, and you had driven that thing up there and ended up couldn't stop and went through the bushes. Is that where that was? Or was that fairgrounds?
It was at the Ball Diamond up in Garrison. They had a tractor pull.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point that I was just going to show off. And so I just putted up there and then hit the throttle. It was 400. I had a 390 after that, balanced and blueprinted. It's a very expensive motor.
That's a monster.
Yeah. And it was 435 horsepower, and it'll crank 8,000 RPMs. And I would pull up on the track like I was going to do the tractor pull, and then I just hit it and go flying out there. Well, back by the church, which was down there quite a ways, I forgot to allow for grass.
Oh.
And there were some people down there, or some kids down there with their vehicles, and I said, you better move them just a little bit in case I can't stop. And I went right through that hole that I said,
where the cars
sure you
were.
move your stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, so there was a lot of instances that I think the Lord had his hand in it that, you got something here, it can become it was the first, without us knowing it, our first advertising for Nordstrom's Auto Recycling, but it wasn't that. It was called Nordstrom Special. And back then, the racetrack at Houston Speedway was probably the only thing around here that was excitement.
Sure.
Because otherwise, they didn't have soccer, They didn't have Pee Wee baseball. They didn't have the little football teams and everything. It was the races.
Yeah, it
And
was the
they'd have,
racing nights.
yep, 3 to 6,000 people down there. Well, those people now have had kids, and their kids have grown up and got kids. And I will get those kids coming out here yet and say, I remember that tractor.
They still ask about the
Yep.
tractor at our shop. So, going forward a few years about this radio show. So when I moved here in 1990, a mutual friend of Shannon and mine, Ron Sabers, we were working together, and he said, "We got to turn on the radio today." And I said, "What are we talking about?" "We got the radio on. The Crow's playing. We're playing rock. It's heavy metal. This is great." He's like, "No. We're going to turn the AM radio on." I said, "What's AM radio?" He's like, AM radio. I was like, "I know what AM radio is, but we can't even get that here, can we? We'd never turned it on." He says, No. My friend Shannon Nordstrom is going to do this car show." And I said, "He's going to do what?" He's like, "Yeah, he's going to do a car show." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean a car show? Like he's got cars to show? How do they do it?" He goes, "No, he's going to get on there and talk about cars. His mom's got something going with the station. And they're going to do cars." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So they turned it on, and they were at the fairgrounds in 1990 in August.
Yep.
And I listened to it for about 10 minutes, and I said, "This is stupid, Ron. This is never going to go anywhere. Who would ever do a show like this?" And then we listened to it for the rest of it, for the rest of the half hour, and I said, "Well, it's okay, I guess, but that's not my thing."
Welcome
And
to the show, Russ.
Yeah, here we are all these years later. And now I've gone back and I've listened to that show. And now when I listen to it, like if I would have been here knowing what I knew, this is actually pretty good for this, for a car show. So it's good.
Well,
Marie, where did it come from?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you need to talk to Marie, because here again is another one of her ideas that I'll say we used to go to Kansas City to the auction down there when I was got bigger and
Yeah.
buying cars and stuff. And
Well, there was a guy down there that had a radio show, and he told me about it. And then I got back home, and I used to do some windrowing, swathering, whatever they call it, swathing. And as I was out there on the tractor, I heard a call-in radio show about landscaping. And I thought, why can't we do that for Nordstroms? And Shannon can answer all those questions. He's smart. So that is exactly where it came from. And I went home and I said, "Shannon, I have an idea." He goes, "Well, who do we know that we can talk to?" And Art knew somebody from the fair, and we knew people. We got
out at the fair, I worked with the fair for many years on tractor pull, and I finally got on the fair board, which I am currently. But there was a guy by the name of Wayne Pritchard in Sioux Falls, woke up all the kids in the morning and birthdays and everything else. So I went down and talked to him and pitched him the idea, and it came together.
Yep, and that's where it started.
Yeah, and Marie, what was it they had?
Well, they said, "Who's going to answer these questions when the people call in?" I said, "My son Shannon can." And they said, "How are you sure?" I said, "Trust me, he can do it."
And Shannon was 19 at that time, and the competition of the other one would have been Click and Clack, which is no more around. You guys are bigger than Click and Clack right now.
Well, we've been around for a while, but
yeah.
We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come right back. And if you have a question for Art and Marie about the show, bring it on. 866-594-4150. Welcome back to the End of the Hood Show. If you got a question for Art and Marie about Under the Hood or Nordstroms in general, give us a call, 866-594-4150. We're going to run until the top of the hour, and then we're going to go back to automotive questions, your calls, and I'll answer them like I usually do.
Russ, when you said you heard the show the first time when Shannon was 19, back there and answering the questions and the things that you did not have the technology that we have right now.
Oh, yeah, no internet.
Yeah, and that's why, right now you guys have got such a great show going, because I sit back and I listen to the show and say, how in heck do they know all of that
And
stuff?
we still do it with no computers, no internet.
Yeah, I know it.
We just do what we do because we work on them every day.
And back then, of course, when Shannon was there, he was 19 when it started. And the thing is that there wasn't that much technology in it. And
No, the cars were.
we've got a picture of him. What was he, 4 years old or 5 years old? I had one of my Ford trucks that I was fixing out, a Ford truck at that time.
Yep.
And he's got wrenches in his hands and he's working on it. He was with me all the time.
Yeah, it's funny that Shannon and I grew up so far apart, but we had so many similarities. I mean, we're basically born the same day. You know, Shannon's got the picture with you working on the truck, and I was with my dad working on the truck, and just all these things
Yeah.
they came together. You know, and we've had you know, a faith our whole life. You know, you grew up with teaching your kids about God and Jesus and faith, and
That's
and
more I want to put on my wife. She was our prayer warrior.
she led it, and but it all came around, you know. And I had the same thing with my parents, and then kind of moved away and came back up here. And you two have been a lead in my life. Coming here has been an inspiration because I've got to see that the whole time. And it with the crazy ironic thing, the way God works with all this. I told you, Marie, about 6-8 months ago that my wife had worked for Doug Idema. Doug Idema's wife was the one who
Yep.
originally told you about the Lord and brought
That's
you
right.
into that. So it's all this was, you know, pre-planned and worked together. It was just
But you have to be able to see that pre-plan after it's happened.
it was after. You always
bet.
look back on it. You don't see it until it's already happened. If you look for it, you're not going to find it, but you'll see it and how it worked out
Well, you know,
once it.
you take and look at our lives. Marie's and my life, even though we only lived about 7 miles apart, we're parallel to each other in the things that happened and not knowing
Sure.
it. And the little car crash that we were talking about at the Diamond kind of put it together the first time, and then it kind of went off, and then we started dating, and we went together about 5 years before we got married, and that's a whole different story. We eloped finally, but it was a different story. But the thing is that she's been the leader in what we've been trying to get done with the spiritual aspect of it, because her faith and time was stronger. And I think when she's sitting out there cultivating and rotary hoeing and disking and everything, you get a lot of time just to think, to do, you know, it's just, it's something else.
Help if I turn my mic back on, wouldn't it? We got a call on the phone. We're going to
Okay.
talk to Alan. He's got a question for us. Hi, Alan. How you doing? Turn your radio down in the background, Alan.
I turned it off.
All right, there you
you
go.
go.
Hi, Alan. How you doing?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Mrs. Nordstrom,
Yes.
when you were started out before you got your dealer's license, did you use the shopping news to advertise your cars and trucks?
Yes, we did. That
You
was some of
recall.
our first advertising. And to see our ad in the shopping news or the suburban news was amazing. Yes. Thank you for the
Yeah.
memory.
Did you list a whole lot of them at one time, or just onesie twosies?
At the beginning, it was
Do you recall?
just ourselves. We didn't list them. But then as we
Yeah.
got to advertise in the Argus Leader, and there was a magazine called The Locator that we advertised in, then we could list them.
And then Deals on Wheels.
Yeah.
And Bob Nelson had owned
Well-
Deals on Wheels at that time.
Oh
Go ahead.
yeah, I remember them guys. Well, I know why he probably didn't. The dealer inspector didn't catch it, because it's probably the way you're advertised. He'd sit down with the shopping news and a pen and go through it and circle all the ads that looked like a used car lot.
Yep.
And why do I know this?
I'm interested why you know this.
He's my dad.
Yeah, your dad.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you for calling. Thank you. Well, he was a
Yeah.
good man.
Yeah, it was fun. We have a whole collection of his old trucks yet. So, but yeah, that's how he did it. He'd sit down with a pen and the shopping news and draw a circle around the ad, then run a line up to the top and have a little scribble mark so he always knew what was what. So,
You
Oh,
know,
wow.
but that, and nobody ever probably said anything. Nobody ever complained.
well,
That
you know,
was another target.
yeah,
for him,
and when
too.
we started dealing with, because we were zoned agriculture out here, and that's a whole different story of how we it was able to get it zoned right. But just tried to be not sneakily, but just fly under the radar a little ways.
Well, and if you're doing things right,
That worked.
Yep.
yeah, that always helps. Thanks
Yeah.
for the call, Alan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye now. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, it always helps, and when you're doing things right and people aren't complaining, it's easier to continue to move forward.
You know, and you made it
treat
important
people
when
well.
when I started working with Dave Quill, and he was head of zoning at that time, and he had told me that the only way that they go out and investigate anything is by a complaint. And evidently, we had no complaints on it. We were just far enough ahead of that until it just all of a sudden it changed, and we got our zoning changed and all of those things. And wearing the white hat.
So Shannon had come back here in 1987.
Mhm.
He was going to go off in telecommunications school.
Yep,
Mhm.
Jackson.
Yeah, so he did that and came back and said, "That's not for me. I think I want to do cars," kind of like you two did to do cars. So he started doing that, and then the radio show in 1990, and now it's progressed quite a bit. So I was thinking back when you said, "When am I going to get that first employee?" Who was Dave Underberg?
Nope,
Was that right?
Danny
Or-
Foster.
Danny Foster.
Danny Foster. All right,
We were
and then so
handling hay bales.
he was the first guy, and did he help you out with cars a little bit too?
Well,
Mhm.
yep, it was.
Okay.
I had him for farming to help with hay bales because I was milking the cows yet and farming. We farmed close to 500 acres, and it ended up I was milking the barn would hold 32 cows, and I'd have to run them in 2.5 times. I was milking 75 head of cattle.
Oh boy.
And trying to do the business, and that's where Marie would fill in doing the farm work, and then I would do this. And back then, you didn't have the communications with iPhones or
Sure.
whatever it is. So if there was a wrecked vehicle out by Pier, or maybe one, I would milk cows real quick and take off and drive out there and look at it, so I knew what I was getting. And now,
Oh,
when
yeah.
you bid on cars,
Online.
yeah, online. Chad sits back there in the office and bids on probably 700-800 cars and picks out the ones we need. I mean, that's a whole different ballgame.
And they buy them all across the world that way, and they ship them over. That's crazy. So now here we sit. You were on this spot without electricity. You move forward to farming. Finally got a bathroom.
Yeah, right. Still got the dang spiders though.
Milking cows. You can see our history on our wall down in the lobby of all the different houses and barns and the things as we went. And now here today in 2025,
You know,
Big
one of
number.
the other things, Russ,
80 people.
yeah, when you're running through that is that my dad, even though he died at 53, he was a legislator for 20
Walt
years.
Nordstrom,
Yeah,
yeah.
Walt Nordstrom. And Marie and I were lobbyists for the auto recyclers, which
Yes.
didn't have an organization for 21 years. And you would have to drive out there or make
Oh.
phone calls. So we put a lot of time on the road trying to get everything on, getting some guys that would milk cows and getting somebody that knew what the heck was going on. And you look back, and I think both of us say, how in the world did we ever do that?
Yeah, I can see. But, after all these years, I'm proud to work here.
Thank you. We're proud to have you.
Thank you and to have you both be somebody in my life to talk to, because I haven't had a dad around since 1987 when he passed away very young like yours did. So whether we say it or not, there's a lot of people here who go, "Oh, that damn Artie Nordstrom," and
Yeah.
or they just call him Art. Art, oh, he's a pain in the butt. But I never hear anybody say, I start seeing them do things that Art says, "Well, you should do it this way," and then they start doing it. And I'm like, "Well, that was a good idea, huh?" "Well, yeah." I'm like, "Well, why don't you tell them that?" "Well, it's like, because we're too young and kids." But I've learned a lot, and you've seen me over
Yep.
the years where I'm like, "Damn it, Art, I'm not going to do that." And then here a week later, I'm doing it. It's like, "Well, why are you doing it now?" "Well, because it was a good idea." So, yeah, I mean, it's been really great working here over all these years and doing the show and being able to help all these people out with their cars for free on the radio. It's just been a great thing, and I've really enjoyed sitting down and talking to the two of you here. And people can go to YouTube and watch the video on this if they'd like. When we're done with the show, and next hour we're going to get back in and we're going to take your phone calls. And
One thing I want to say, Russ, is that, it's great. We've talked, and I enjoy this a lot. I thought, how am I ever going to do an hour? Both of us said, how are we
Goes
ever going to
quick.
do an hour? And all of a sudden it's about over. But also, all of our history and things that have happened, how the Lord has worked for us. My wife is writing a book,
Yes.
It's a God-given thing that this book is coming about. It's been on a year and a half, probably longer. But Ray, tell them what the name is going to be.
We got time?
Do it.
About 20 seconds.
It's going to be called It's the Honest to God Truth. Because I had many things happen. I would call my mom and she would say that, Marie, you better write a book. You better
I
call
can't
it.
wait to read it. There's going to be so much fun stuff in there.
Yep.
And
I don't know when it'll happen, but
The
we're
honest
working
to
on it.
God truth. It'll
It's-
be on Amazon, I'm sure.
who knows?
This has been the End of the Hood Show, Hour 1. We'll be back here in just a few minutes with your phone calls in Hour 2. Take care, everybody.
You're listening to the Nordstroms Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstroms Motor Medics.
Welcome to the End of the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans, without Shannon and without Chris. We got them out on, what do they call that, special assignment? No, they're doing things. Some personal, some not personal. I got some stuff I'm doing after the show too. But hey, I was kind enough to come in. I can't actually. You're kind, doing me the favor, listening to the show. Really enjoy this. This is my favorite part of the week, as you know. We invite you to call 866-594-4150. Get under the hood, and we'll help you out with all your automotive ailments. So, last hour, we talked to Art and Marie Nordstrom's founder of Nordstroms Automotive Incorporated and the End of the Hood Show. So, if you'd like to hear a little bit about how the End of the Hood Show started, how the auto recycling business started, all the way from back when Art was here before this property even had electricity. Yeah, that was a long time ago. There might have been a couple dinosaurs around too. I'm not sure, but it was a long time ago. He'll admit that. Just check it out on the YouTube channel or listen to the last hour of the podcast. I'll have it labeled up there for you. It was great. So back to cars. We've been doing a little more investigating into this GM 6.2-liter recall. And as you know, with Nordstrom's Auto Recycling here, we have a lot of late model vehicles. So late model, in fact, that we have a lot of vehicles with just 2 or 3 actual miles on them. We've sold a couple engines with 3 to 5, yes, 003, 005 actual miles on them. Sold those engines, but before they went out, they were taken apart, these 6.2s that are under the recall. We wanted to see what was going on inside. Would we see any damage? Would we see them looking like brand new? What would we find? Well, guess what we found? Yeah, they were trash, folks. Not every one of them's going to be this way, of course. They told you that. But the one we took apart, I'm going to do a little video and post pictures because nobody's got one of these. They have the aftermath of one that's blown up. But nobody out there has a video of a brand new car. Think about it. Who's going to tear down a brand new GMC or Chevy truck with a 6.2 that seems to be running well to find out what's in there? And they don't know if they're going to find something or not. But we didn't. So we took it apart and we took a peek. And we found the crankshafts, the rod journals, heavily damaged, heavily wear already. And they were basically egg-shaped. They were super worn off on one portion, and they were slightly worn off in another area. And what happens with that is after a while of driving, they want you to put the 540 Mobil 1 supercar oil in there, which is supposed to help you out, right? Well, what's that going to do? It helps it higher RPM or with higher viscosity at that lower RPM to try to protect it a little longer, but eventually it's going to die. The engine's going to be killed. It's going to come apart, and you're going to be left stranded. I have a friend of mine that has New Vision spray foam in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area, and that I use him for all my spray foam projects. And we've got to talking a lot over the years about his vehicles. And he owns I believe it's a 24 GMC Sierra. It's got the 6.2. He gives me a call a couple weeks ago on a Friday and says, "Hey Russ, I am stuck in the middle of a busy intersection in town here in the city, and the the engine just blew up. It just stopped." And I said, "Well, we discussed this." And he's like, "How do I move it?" And I told him, "Well, you really don't, because the transmission on that, you can unlock it if you get under the vehicle. And who wants to crawl under the vehicle on a busy roadway? And use some vice grips and get it unlocked out of park. But now you can't move it because there's no way to disengage the parking brake without the engine running and the doors closed. It's kind of a nightmare. You can't pull the drive shaft off. You can't do anything with this because it's locked up. If you had a scan tool, you can unlock it. And I carry a scan tool with me just because of this issue, so I can unlock it, but not many people do. So this is something that, besides this big issue with GM recalling the vehicles for engines that may fail and leave you stranded, which is the safety concern and why there is a recall in the first place, because some of these are making it out of the warranty before they blow up. And not everyone will do it again, but some will. But somebody really needs to find them accountable for being able to get these things out of park. There needs to be some procedure with maybe you hold down the parking brake lever and the neutral button for 10 seconds or something to get it to come out of gear. And they can program that. It's a simple fix for them to write a program to get that to happen and then update them, but they haven't yet. And for those of you out there saying, well, just put it in service mode, with the engine not being able to run like that, you cannot set the parking brake service mode. We have not been able to get one to do it. We've talked to people that work on these at the dealers. We've been through all the procedures ourselves in our shop, and we have so far not been able to get one to go into service mode once the engine blows up. So if you think you can get it into service mode, go ahead and get one blown up for us and then try to do it with the motor locked up where you can't do anything with it, and see how your luck is there. But this is definitely a safety issue. But we wanted to let you know we have taken these apart with 3 actual miles on them and found them in horrible shape inside. So we also have found them where we've taken apart and they've been like brand new. And those are the ones that we know are going to last. Shannon's got one in his truck under the recall, and we're curious to see what that looks like. Hopefully, if the engine does have to get switched, we'll be able to take a peek at it and see what we can find in there and go from there. We're going to take a quick phone call here. We're going to jump right in and we're going to talk to Robert in Minnesota. And Robert has a 2002 Chevy Express van. How you doing, Robert?
Oh, I hope I can do better.
Yeah.
Get my van going.
What do you got going on with it?
Well, anyway, I have a reduced engine power. The
Okay.
light, the gauge says, and then also when I tried to start it again, it says gauges, check gauges,
Right.
and I don't understand that.
Okay. If you have a check gauges light in a Chevy Express van or any of the GM trucks like that, that means that it thinks that one of the gauges on that dash is reading improperly. Now, that could be a low fuel light with the gauge on empty. It could be low oil pressure. That would also do that. Voltage either too high or too low on that dash, or engine temperature too high or too low. That would give you the check gauges warning. The reduced engine power comes if it's actually reduced, correct? The power, it's low power right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it starts up, and then it dies right away.
Okay, so it doesn't ever go anywhere. It starts up and dies right away.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a security mode typically, and that will also give you a check gauges light if that security light is flashing. So what we would do if we had this in our own shop, we're going to plug a scan tool in it, and we're going to read the codes and see what's going on in there. More than likely, you're going to get a code for anti-theft system not communicating. And a lot of the times on the Express, it's just as simple as the ignition switch itself. There's a little transponder in there, a radio, and it tells it when it has the correct key in there, pushing the pins in the right direction to unlock it. And then it allows the computer to engage the vehicle, the fuel, once it starts and keep going. Otherwise, it starts for a second, shuts down after it clears that fuel out. So I think that's probably what you got going on, and it's shutting the whole thing down. And so
You
if you
helped me out once before,
sure,
and it was the same thing, reduced engine power. And
It's common.
I can't remember what it was that it told me to do.
It could have been the ignition switch. That is a common failure on those, and it will give you that reduced engine power light when that does occur. So just something to keep in mind. But I'd get it into a shop and have them take a peek at that. But it sounds like that's probably what you got going on there. Does it help you out a little bit?
Well, a little bit. Let's see. I'm planning on taking it in if I couldn't get no information from you guys at how to get that straightened out.
Sure.
Because I have no vehicle. I got to borrow my friend's
Oh,
vehicle.
no. Yeah, get it in there. Hopefully it's just the ignition switch, and that's not as an expensive fix. So and get that fixed up and get
Yeah.
you back on the road. Thanks, Robert.
Well, thank you, too.
You bet. Take
Bye.
care. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back on Under the Hood. You can give us a call. We're lining up the calls right now. They're stacking up. 866-594-4150. We appreciate you listening.
Some are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. For these guys, it was a torque wrench and a multimeter. This is Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans, along with myself, Russ Evans and Russ Evans. If you have a call, question, call us, right? If you have a call, then I'll take it. But 866-594-4150. I think I want to go right over here to the phone and talk to Steve. Steve's in Iowa. He's got an 03 F-150. How you doing, Steve?
Good. How are you doing, Russ?
This is great. I'm hanging out solo and just answering calls. We're just going to shotgun them down here. 22222.
Well, I got a weird one for you.
Okay.
It's 03 F-150. My buddies have a guy look at it, and he says it's leaking oil from the cylinder head.
Okay, in the back
head
corner?
gasket. Yep. And he don't want to do a head gasket.
Yeah, I bet.
And I want to run this by you. I suggested that maybe we could hook a vacuum cleaner up to the oil filler hole and clean that area really good, and then put some silicone sealer there, try to get it to suck in there, and then unhook the vacuum cleaner and let it cure. Do you think that would maybe work?
Well, that sucks. What a sucky idea, right? Get it? Okay. never mind.
Right.
That's a dad joke. All right, my daughter's saying, wow, what an idiot. Anyways, there are no bad ideas. If this was a shop doing this, I'd say they're out of their mind, that they shouldn't do that. But if it was my car and I just wanted it to stop oil, I can't say that that's a bad idea. Maybe, hook. So I'm going to get a little nervous about flammable materials, but if you were to, you got to clean that off. You get some CRC, that non-chlorinated brake cleaner, hose it down really good, and then maybe put the vacuum on there. So you're pulling a little in. You don't want to put so much in that it gets into the vacuum, because that stuff's flammable and it goes through that vacuum motor and poof. But you want to pull enough in, right, that you get it clean. But once you get it clean, that's at your own risk. Do whatever you're going to do there, but you got to get it clean. Once you get it clean, then I think if you got the best silicone we found, we don't advertise it or anything, but it's been around forever. It's called the Right Stuff. We use it for everything we seal in our shop, and it's really strong.
Okay.
Lots of different They got it in a caulk gun and a spray can, the whole thing. But I'd put that on there. And it won't dry immediately. So if you put it on and then put the vacuum to it, you should actually be able to see it move a little bit. And if it does, and it pulls it just into that crack, just a tiny little bit, and you can get it to seal, I'd even sand that area first and then hit it with some brake clean again, just to make sure it's shiny, clean metal without paint. But that stuff, I've had to tear it off with pliers. It's been on so tight, and you don't really have a lot of oil pressure. That's a drain back. Probably it could be coming through the oil pressure going to the head, which means 60 psi or less, but it could be a drain back as well. So valve cover draining down, that's the one you're hoping for, because if it's draining back, then there's no pressure. It's just gravity, and that'll definitely seal up, I would imagine. But the pressurized side, it's going to be a head gasket. And for that one, you have to do timing chains. How many miles is on it?
Oh, I'm not sure. It's over 100,000.
Okay, if it's not that
I
many, I mean, if not, we're not talking like 180, 200, 175. If it's still in that lower range, you might consider doing head gaskets. But while you do the head gaskets, this is the F-150 that has the problem with the, where with cam phaser could be into play.
Yep.
Get the lockout kit. This is a perfect time. Pull the heads, have them checked at a machine shop, put the heads back on with new gaskets, new head bolts. And when you do that, put the lockout kit in, and then you probably got an engine that'll make it to 300,000. I've seen a lot of these F-150s with a 5.4 go 300 with that kit in there. So if you got to take it apart anyways, definitely put that in there. Kyle on YouTube just said, if it works, it's not a dumb idea.
Okay, great.
So I think that's true. If you can make this work, more power to you. I think that would be if you could stop the leak. It's all about keeping the vehicle running as cheap as you can, as long as you can. And if this thing works like that, if you do this and it works, and it's working a year from now, even 6 months from now, we want you to call back, and because the other guys don't know what's going on, they wouldn't heard it. They'll say, "Yeah, Russ said that would be a good idea." I want to hear that it fixed it. All right, take care,
Okay.
Steve. Thanks.
Thanks, Russ. Bye.
Hey, and you know what? We're going to jump right over, and we're going to go to another Steve in Iowa with an 02 Ram. I was thinking it was going to be an 03 F-150 again, but it's not. It's an 02 Ram. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, I'm good. I know my way around a horse a lot better than I do a pickup. I still have the original hoodie you gave me right off your back at the horse race.
Oh, yeah, down at the harness race. That's funny. I love it.
Yeah.
Steve in Iowa. Well, that's good. I know my way around a car better than a horse, although I know my way around a horse pretty good too, but that's a different subject.
I know you do. I know you do.
What's up with that Ram, Steve?
Well, my son-in-law, he dropped the fuel tank and put a new pump in it, and that worked for a while.
Okay.
Well, now I'll be riding along, and I'll hit a bump, and the RPMs will flash up.
When you
Suppose
hit
I
a
got
bump.
the same dang thing, or...
So you hit a bump and the RPMs go up. Does the tack just move, or does the engine actually rev up? Do you hit a bump and it goes, and you actually know it's up?
No, the tack just moves.
Okay, tack moves, but the vehicle is not going any faster. The engine is not.
Correct.
Yeah. So on this Ram, there's two things that we see a lot. Could just be that gauge cluster is bad, and you could duplicate that by sitting in the parking lot and just smack the top of the dash. Not hard enough to break it, but you got to hit it pretty hard. And if it jumps all over, it needs an instrument cluster. And that's up to you if you want to go swapping it, because it'll mess with the miles and everything. Otherwise, you can get reman units. Dorman Products, our partner, sells that as a reman. You tell them the VIN and the miles, and they'll get you one that's exact, so you can just bolt it in yourself with no programming. It's an OEM fix for you, just right at home. But if it doesn't change when you give it a little whack on the top of the dash there, it could be as simple as there's a small battery ground. You've got the regular ground that goes to the engine for starting, the big heavy 4-gauge, but then there's a small one that bolts to the body on that fender. Those have been known to corrode and get weak and loose, and if it's getting loose, that can cause that, because you'll have a voltage fluctuation inside because it's losing the ground to the rest of the body. And as that motor moves, you hit bumps, it breaks the ground as it's going through the motor mount to the chassis or between the frame and the body, and it can make the gauges go wacky. So I'd start with the old tap test. Shannon says, hit it as hard as you would your nose without breaking it. And then if that doesn't change it, then I'd look at that ground.
That sounds really good. It's not so bad rust, but there is some rust under there, and I'm sure there's corrosion. So we'll give that a try.
All right, sounds good. Good to talk to you, Steve. All right, we're going to go over and talk to Greg in Minnesota with a 19 Jeep. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Russ. Great show. I listen to it all the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I got a 2019 Jeep Grand Cherokee that the intake cam went out on the right bank.
I seen that on the 3.6.
Yep. Yep. So we put a intake cam in it,
Mm-hmm.
all new rockers and lifters,
Good.
and it runs fine. But we're showing 11.5 degrees off cam crank correlation on just that intake cam.
Mm-hmm. And
And throw. Go ahead.
if it's off that far, it sounds like it's out of time. Do you think it's
But
in time?
we pulled it apart. Timing marks are on. Got 12 pins between the on the chain. So we checked the timing twice on it.
Okay. If you're 100%, it's all in time. It's possible they got you the wrong cam. It may have the wrong cam, or it may have a problem with the way with that cam sensor in there that picks up off that wheel on there. If there's an issue with the way that's installed on there, and you can't take it off, but if the way that's sitting, that will do that. Also, if that wheel is bent at all on that cam, that'll do that too. It'll give a weird waveform. But we have had the wrong cam sent to us on those specific engines before. We ordered that cam, and they end up getting us a different cam, and we put the thing together.
The old style.
Yeah, and it gets us. It's been off anywhere between 7 and 11 degrees when it's that way. And there's nothing worse than buying a part, especially when you buy it from the place you think that, from the dealership, and say, I need this cam.
Well,
here's the VIN, and then it doesn't work. And it's not the dealership's fault. It's the manufacturer that sent it to them because they ordered it right. But sometimes that happens, and that if a lot of times when you're getting an aftermarket part, let's say you went down to AutoZone and you ordered this part, and it's an aftermarket part you're putting in there. When you do that, those parts, we usually have a better chance that way when we're getting some of these parts with the OEM, like we've talked about Dorman and their OEM fixes and stuff. When they're trying to fix an OEM situation, a lot of times they'll include more than just the cam. They'll say, okay, you buy a cam from a dealer, you put it in, that's what you got. But then you have to get the gaskets and things individually. And that can be, helpful saving money if you want just one head gasket and things like that sometimes. But when you need complete kits, going a route where like you go to AutoZone or something and you buy a whole cam kit for it. And with these 6 engines, they've had so many problems. There are a lot of kits available that include cams, lifters, the gasket set, everything. But I think you might just have the wrong cam in there, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. They said they sent me the updated cam.
Yeah. Verify your part numbers. Get the part number off it and call them. I bet it's got a problem with it.
It is an aftermarket cam because Jeep says there's 19,000 of them on back order.
Back ordered. Then if it's aftermarket, 100%. You better verify that number because I think they got you a wrong one, unfortunately. All right. Thanks, Greg.
Well, we will pull that out. Thanks, Russ. Great show. Love it.
Take care.
Have a good day.
All right. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a second. This is the End of the Hood Show with me today. Other guys will be back next week, I promise. Well, I hope so anyways. Hoping they're safe. 866-594-4150. Welcome back to the End of the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans. 866-594-4150. We want to get your calls on the air. We'll help you out. Free automotive advice right here under the hood. We're going to go talk to Doug right now in Iowa with a 21 Silverado. Lots of calls from Iowa today. How you doing, Doug?
Doing good, except for my noisy brakes on my Silverado.
Uh-oh, it's a 21.
2500. Yep. And it had these noisy brakes. I've had this since about 33,000 miles, and I've got about 42,000 on it right now.
Okay.
And it's been noisy right from the get-go when I got it, and thought maybe I could do something with it. I looked them over, can't find anything wrong, and I had it to the dealership for my normal servicing. And they said there wasn't a lot that they had figured out to do. Do you have any hints?
Well, they all seem to be a little noisy from the factory, even if you put new factory pads on. I've seen them. They go back in there like, these are noisy. And at the beginning, they were like, oh, well, we'll change the pads out for you. And that'll fix it. Well, it didn't. And then they kept coming back for that NVH, they call it, noise, vibration, and harshness diagnosis. And people would want them changed out. They'd change them out, but no fix, right? So the only thing I've seen fix these is when people go to an aftermarket brake set on these vehicles. The factory ones, for whatever reason, I think they contain more metallic in there than, which is trying to keep the wear down than maybe they should as far as for noise. So any kind of moisture in the air, especially you get rainy days, repeat, and they start building up rust and high humidity, they're going to kind of howl and screech like a dump truck. We've seen this problem with performance cars like Camaros and the older Corvettes as well, too, until they upgraded to some different parts. But I think if you would check with like an AutoZone, see what they've got for in their quiet line of brakes, and when it's time to change these, I wouldn't change them now just for noise because that's an expense. But when it does come time to change them, I would swap them out with a different, an aftermarket, good ceramic aftermarket pad, and that should take care of your noise because it's going to be a whole different design, to the pad.
Okay. Well, it seems to be 90% of it's coming from the rear brakes.
Yep.
And they just howl terrible. And you're right, it's like a vibrating sound. It's horrible.
Yeah, and if you hit them really
But my
hard, it
next
stops,
question-
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It
Yeah.
does. And
When-
the minute you use them a little bit on the road, then it's gone.
Yep, and when you're braking, most of the
But,
braking's done on the front, so you have to really push them hard to get the back. So you have to get them out on the road, get them warmed up good, get that metallic in the brake pad to warm up to stop the howl. So that's why it's doing that.
Sure. Okay. And I have a second question.
Mhm.
How does the 6.6 gas seem to be doing? That's what I've got in this one. I chose not to go diesel, and it seems like a fantastic engine. It pulls my trailer great and everything. They seem to be holding up okay.
So far, they've been a great engine. They haven't been subject to the giant recall like the 6.2, so nobody needs to be too nervous about that. But they do use a substantial amount more of fuel than the 6.2. It reminds me of back in the 80s when we had all the 454 powered trucks, and those 454s compared to the 400s and the 350s were out there. They pulled like mad. They'd pull anything you wanted, but boy, they were thirsty. Same way with these 6.6 gas. If you put a trailer behind them, you're going to know it. It's going to burn fuel, but you're going to get a return in being able to pull what you want with it. And so far, longevity has been good. We've sold a lot of those to people with hot rod projects where they wanted to put the big block, in their car they have, in their older like 70s Chevy pickups and stuff, and 80s trucks. They're doing a lot of those conversions. We had a lot of those, number of those engines came through here with no miles on them, and they've been a great project. So I think that one overall, it looks like they've maybe hit a winner with that, and it should hold up for a while.
Well, I was pulling with a GMC, 2010 GMC with a 5.3 in it,
Ooh.
and it did good, but it had a habit of using a little bit of oil. But I solved some of that with putting the right valve cover on the one side, and it did great. Now this one does not even know the trailer's behind it. Literally,
yeah.
I pulled two pulling tractors in my enclosed trailer, and it basically doesn't even know there's anything behind it. But as far as mileage, I'm getting better mileage by a couple of miles to the gallon than what I was getting with the 5.3, simply because I was working that 5.3 so hard.
Yeah,
It is doing good.
Yeah, they're like you said, it's night and day. That 5.3 is nothing compared to that 6.6 as far as the torque it has. It's just a very strong engine. You couple that with a bigger transmission too. It's different gear ratios and different power band. It's a great engine. We really like it. All right.
Oh yeah, we love the truck so far. We're fantastic, and thank you so much for the info.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call, Doug.
Have a good one.
All right, we're going to jump over. We're going to talk to Bob in Oklahoma with a 15 Equinox. Hey, Bob.
Hello.
What's up with the old
I
Equinox?
got a 2015 Chevrolet Equinox, and it's got the key fob
with the fold over laser cut key in it.
Oh yeah.
And we live in a small town. I rarely lock my vehicles or take the keys out. But the other day, I left the keys in it. I was unloading groceries for my wife, and this thing kept trying to start up, and it was off. But the key was in the ignition. It did it 3 times. It's like, what in the world? I pulled the key out and it quit.
Yeah. It it may be a problem with the ignition switch or the body control module in that vehicle. To find this, they're going to have to plug in. First, they're going to have to duplicate it. So we'd have to have the key in there, have it acting up. I imagine you start the car, just turn the key off without pulling it out, so it clicks and shuts that power down, and then let it sit there and watch with the scanner on it and see what is activating the ignition system to start that thing in there. They do have a factory remote start, built into it. Make sure now you're sure it does not have an aftermarket starter that somebody installed on this vehicle under the dash.
I do not know. I bought it used, and I've had it 4 years, and that's the first time it's ever done that.
Sure.
When I pull it in the garage, I always leave the keys in it, and I often wonder how many times at night that thing tries to start. So I just made a habit to start pulling the keys out.
I would definitely pull the key out, and you want to pull it out too, but otherwise it can run that battery dead, because it doesn't shut off until you turn it off and then pull it out, and you'll hear it click when you pull it out, and then it shuts the power off. If you wanted to pull the key out and then put it back in, you might try that too and see what happens. If you leave the key in it, pull it out first so it clicks, and then put it back in. Volkswagen's got the same problem, but we've had some of these with problems with the body control module, which is where it senses to start. If you notice, you turn the key on and then you just bump it to the start position and let go, and it'll keep cranking until it starts. It's got like an auto start built in, like a push button type start, but it's just a bump the key bump start. And if there's a problem in that system, it's going to crank and just take off on its own. So you might want to just start by pulling that key out, but I would get it into a shop. If you can try to duplicate it, maybe have it parked outside where you can watch it. You got the window open where you can hear what's going on at night or whatever. And just quiet at the end of the day, leave it there with the key turned off, but in the ignition, and see if you can get it. If you know that after 15 minutes it starts doing that, then you can go in and comfortably tell the shop, hey, you just shut it off. Don't pull the key out though, and let it sit there. And in 15 minutes, it's going to try to crank and watch and see if it's temperature related too. And then they'll be able to find it. Because if you don't give them an exact time, they're going to give you that, well, I'm going to charge you whatever it costs and not be able to fix it, unfortunately. So see if you can get it to figure out a way to get that to duplicate quicker and then get it into the shop.
Well, I didn't know if maybe the key fob was going bad. I
don't think so.
I think hate to order another key fob.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to fix it. I think this is going to be more of a, if it was the key fob, then it would do it with it out of the ignition as well. So I'm thinking more along the lines of body.
Start on the key fob.
Mm-hmm. I think this is more along the lines of a body control module issue.
Okay.
All right. Well, good luck.
Well, I will do that. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. We're going to jump over to Daryl in Oklahoma with a 99 Grand Marquis. Hi, Daryl.
Hi. Hey, how's it going?
Really good.
Thanks for taking the call.
You bet.
I got this 99 Grand Marquis, and I bought it in the summer last year, and I really didn't need the heater at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then when winter come around, the heater would come on, get hot, feels great. Oh, and then all of a sudden it'd go cold. Like, well, what the hell's going on? And so then, you go about a few miles and maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and the heater come back on, and so I was like, well, whenever I decided I wanted to take it in, have some people look at it, they tried to look at the vent doors, they're fine. They tried to say, well, maybe you're low on coolant. And so we filled it up with coolant. And so it's got plenty of coolant, but it's still, of course now it's summer, it don't really matter, but I know I want to look at it before, winter comes back around. What would make the heater come on and then go off, come on, and it usually stays on really nice and hot and warm, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe, and then it'll go, like it's almost like it's turned off, like cold. So I'm not really sure what's going on. Maybe there's an air bubble in there or something.
Well,
somebody said it could be some kind of a leak in the intake or something.
Well, the first thing you want to do is verify what the temperature is. Get yourself one of those, just get a cheaper laser heat gun and verify that the heater hoses are getting hot and they're staying hot. And, bleed it out. They do have a couple problems. One, the intake manifolds on those, they've got such a problems that our partner over at Dorman Products sells a plastic intake replacement manifold because there's an OEM issue and they've got an OEM fix for it where it sucks air in or it leaks coolant out in the front corners, front right and left corner. That can cause a problem with the cooling. If that is not the issue and you've got good hot coolant flowing all the time, that auto temp control system they have in that car has been known to have issues with the blend door motor located behind that glove box on the passenger side. It will just randomly, it can't get a good feedback from the motor. So it randomly just goes over to the cold position and then back to the hot position and moves back and forth without you touching that button. Sometimes if it gets cold, you can switch it all the way to the cold position, all the way back to the hot. And if it comes back, then pretty much guaranteed that's what's going on, is you've got some kind of issue with the electric door control in there. But I put in a number of those door motors over the years because of this problem. But you definitely want to verify that you've got some heat coming out of the hoses first. Does that help you out a little bit?
Make sure the hoses are hot. Coming out of the hoses.
Out of the
then
engine.
You're saying it could be an intake issue.
A leak in the front corners of that intake manifold, and Dorman Products sells a replacement for that if that is the issue.
Leak in the front of the intake.
Yep.
Okay. And then if not, you're saying it's the doors behind the temperature control.
Right.
Okay, I'll check that out. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call.
All right, bye.
Oh, got to have that heat in the winter. Now, this time of year, with it being 100 across the country, we're not really thinking about that right now, but we will be soon enough. 866-594-4150. This is the End of the Hood Show. We'll be back in just a minute.
Never, ever use your tongue to see if your car battery is good. Seriously, we mean it. This is Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the End of the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans, along with myself today. Chris and Shannon will be back next week. Make sure you go back and watch our YouTube show from last hour. We sat down with Art and Marie Nordstrom, the founder of Nordstrom's Automotive and the Under the Hood Show. We learned all sorts of crazy, fun things. It was a great honor to sit down with them and have a talk. We don't get a lot of time to talk during the week. Everybody's working like crazy. They're actually still working here full-time at Nordstrom's after all these years. We learned today Art was here before electricity. I don't mean in this building. I mean this whole property. It was crazy. We're going to jump over and we're going to get on the phone again, and we're going to talk to Gary in Idaho with a 21 Honda CRV. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Russ. Glad to be with you.
Thanks.
So I have a problem with it. It's got all the bells and whistles, but I noticed since I had about 3,000 miles on it that the adaptive cruise control would stop working, especially when I drive for about an hour on a long trip. So when that happens, it turns off. All the lights on the dashboard come on, warning lights, no braking system, no all of the automatic things, and basically the cruise control stops working, and all the bells are going off and everything else. And it'll stay that way for days before it resets.
Huh. So, and it's been this way since it had about 3,000 miles on it?
Yes. When I use the cruise control for about an hour, this will happen.
Okay. But it's got to run about an hour before it does it every time.
Yeah.
And before that, when you first bought the car, it worked fine for 2-3 hours, whatever you needed to?
I don't remember if I actually ran it that long in the beginning.
So it could have been there since the beginning, but you noticed it at 3,000 miles.
Correct.
All right. Well, I've heard this before with a few vehicles, and it was a simple reprogramming issue of the vehicle. People took it back into the dealership. They reflashed that control module in there, and that took care of the problem. So it's very likely that is what's going on, that it needs a software update, just like our home computers need updates every now and then, usually at the most inconvenient time, though. But I think that may fix your issue, because it's operating. You can turn it on and it does its job, but after a while it shuts down. And that system that runs the throttle is the same one that your foot does, that same throttle pedal. So it's got nothing to do with that motor or the gas pedal in that throttle body. The computer's just telling it to activate that motor. So it's something in its programming strategy that's doing that. But I bet if you go into the dealership and say, it's doing this, I understand that, I listened to this National Car Talk show and they've said other people have had this issue. What do you think? And they're probably going to say, oh yeah, we're familiar with this issue. We've got a bulletin right here in our computer. This is what we need to do to address it. And hopefully they'll still take care of it. Did that have a 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty on it?
Something like that. And I bought an extended warranty.
Then hopefully that's still covered, and they'll get that taken care of for you at no charge if everything's with you on that one. Does that help you out?
Yeah, I think so, because they've tried other things.
All right. All right. Well, good luck there. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Russ.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
I want to switch over here and jump to Charles. Charles has got a 52 Chrysler. I bet that's an old flathead, isn't it? Straight 8?
Yep. 6.
Straight 6. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen one
Yeah,
of those in a number of years.
I'm restoring an old Westinghouse welding machine that was made for Korea.
Yeah.
And it hadn't been used much, and I cannot find anybody that knows what kind of oil to use that, because when I was growing up, my granddad was a welder, and he used bulk oil in there.
Okay.
He didn't care much what he put in it.
So is this the 52 Chrysler in the welder, that design?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, they use that engine in a lot of stuff. They use that engine in. It was pretty tough. It was more of an industrial engine. I mean, they used it in some trucks and things like that, but they used it on pumps, those water pumps that they use for irrigation out on the farms. They used it in welding machines. They used it in generators, all sorts of stuff, because it was known for its longevity. And therefore, because of that, a lot of them, once it fired up, it stayed running for a very long time. It wasn't like a car where it was stop and start. So a lot of them went with a straight weight oil in them. And you still got to change it often. But what I did, I had one of those engines back in the 80s, and I was running 30 weight oil in it. But back then our oil had the zinc, the ZDDP, it had the additives in it needed to protect that engine. Our engines no longer have that luxury, because our oil is not the same as it used to be. If I was running that today, I would run my own engine. You're going to have to make your own decisions, but I would probably myself run a straight 30 weight oil in there, and I would also put an additive in it. Justice Brothers, if you're looking at it, go into a professional shop to get it. The Justice Brothers heavy duty vehicle contains what you need to protect that metal and the camshaft and everything, that engine. Otherwise, you need to go to an auto parts store. You go like the AutoZone, pick up a bottle of ZDDP zinc additive to go in your oil. It takes 1 bottle for 5 quarts of oil, basically, when you read the directions on it. But you definitely have to have that to protect the engine and the cam. That engine, if you're running it in a welder, it's not going to be run a whole lot, but you still want to change the oil. I would still change that oil probably once a year in it. Even if you're going to, let's say you run this engine 10 hours a year, you're still going to want to change that oil to keep it fresh and keep it protected. But yeah, that's what I ran in mine, and it seemed to work. And I think I've heard a few people still running these around, and that seems to work good for them. Does that help you out a little bit?
You bet. That answers all my questions.
All right. Don't forget that additive, because it will damage that camshaft if you do not run the additive in that engine.
Okay.
All right. Take care, Charles.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You too. Bye.
I really enjoy talking about some of these old cars we don't get to talk about much anymore. Producer Doug in there, Mr. Producer. I don't even want to say that, because sometimes it just bothers me. But Producer Doug's okay. Art's old cars. The Nash. Can you still picture that old 50s Nash, the wagon, that Rambler. Those are cool. Some of that old stuff, it just brings me back. And I've had a lot of the older stuff. The stuff we have now, when I was 17, you go back. So Doug, you had a 50 DeSoto, like Happy Days. You're driving the DeSoto tonight, going out with Mary Beth. Doug's laughing at me, producer. We had cars, and a car from like 1950 was about 34 years old when I was growing up in high school. You take a car that's 34 years old now, and we're talking like 1990, 91 to, it doesn't seem that old. But the 50 cars, they because cars, the modern car still looks like a modern car. They from the late 80s, 90s on up, they're all similar shaped they went aerodynamics. Cars used to really be beautiful, all those big lines, fins, big, chiseled front ends, all these different things they had that we just don't have anymore. And it's really neat when I go through, I like walking through old auto recycling yards, the junk yards basically that just scrap now, but antiques. They're really cool to look at, and watching the auctions, seeing some of these cars that are just average, not mint, super custom restored. I like seeing that kind of stuff. Just brings me back, even though hadn't been around that whole time. It just brings me back, and it's neat to see the history of automobiles and what we've had. So again, check out our YouTube channel and Facebook. You can see that interview we did with Art and Marie Nordstrom earlier today on the last show. It was wonderful. Very happy, proud to do that interview. Take care, everybody. Hey, this is the extremely short, abbreviated after show. It was great seeing you all today. Shannon and Chris. Shannon's son's getting married tomorrow. Awesome. Congratulations. And Shannon's out at an auto recyclers convention, and I'm headed to a wedding myself right now. Congratulations. My nephew's first nephew's getting married. So, boy, they grow up so fast. So everybody, off to production I go, and we'll see you next week on Under the Hood. Thanks for watching. Take care.